What's up, everyone? This is Cameron from Supportive Fathers. Some of you may not be aware, but I am a high school counselor in addition to running my own blog. Here, I actually had a chance to interview Thomas Giles at the Ohio State University. He is an admissions rep. I'm going to showcase different universities, different types of universities. In this video, I wanted to showcase a public four-year university for any parents or any students that are considering that as an option for college. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this interview went. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Cameron from Supportive Fathers. I actually am, as some of you are aware, that I'm also a high school counselor. So I am using my expertise as a high school counselor to help support families and parents. I know a lot of this content has been more younger kids, but I also want to support any families that have teenagers as well, or maybe they have children that they aspire to go to college. And I have the opportunity to interview Thomas Giles from Ohio State. He works in admissions, if I'm not mistaken. How are you, Thomas?
I am well this afternoon. Thanks for having me, Cameron.
Thank you for joining. And we'll go ahead and jump right into this. So, and again, these are some of the most common questions I get from parents at my job, and I just want to go ahead and put this out there for everyone. So first question I have for you, especially Ohio State being a four-year public university here and is right in the heart of Columbus. What are some of the requirements that you require that you use for consideration into your university? So like test scores, GPA transcripts, and things like that.
Yeah, so thanks again, Cameron, for having me. That question is, we like to break that question into two parts.
Okay.
One is, what does it take to complete the application? And then what does the university consider when reviewing applications for admission? So the first part is, what does it take to complete the application? This year, we need the common application, which is the only online application that we accept, and then the high school transcript. And for the 2021 school year, so for basically all the seniors and the rising seniors, we are going test optional this year. So the students are not required to submit their test scores to complete their application. Now, when I say that, then the question becomes, so what happens if I don't submit it versus the students who do submit it in the application review process? And for that, the students will be evaluated equally. So for the students who do have their test scores, they will be reviewed the exact same way for those students who do not submit their test scores. So they'll be reviewed for admission, merit-based scholarships, honors and scholars program, our moral scholarship program, et cetera, will all be reviewed the same way as if the student did have test scores. Now, what it takes to, what we look for when reviewing applications, we use what's called a holistic review. Many institutions kind of use that term, and each institution has to define it how we use it. So I always like to tell parents when I get the question of what does it take to be a Buckeye, tell me, Thomas, what's the GPA and test score that I need to get in? Well, I respond by saying, that's like me telling a family or telling someone, I have a strain of fabric and I'm going to give you this strain of fabric and I promise you it's a blanket. Well, you would look at me and say, no, this is just one strand of fabric. This isn't a blanket. That's how the holistic review process is used at Ohio State. So it's not just the test score. It's not just the GPA. However, those two things are part of the holistic review. So test scores, GPA, their rigor in the classroom, AP classes, honors classes, IB classes. We're looking for a diverse class. We're looking for diversity, not just geographically, not just race, ethnicity, but geographically and globally. We are building a diverse class. We're also looking at students that have leadership in their portfolio. So I don't want students to think that they have to, it's like a checkbox. Okay, I have this, I have this, I have this, I then should be admitted. Not that simple. Because we have 53,000 applications and we admitted last year roughly 24,000 of them, not every single student who in their mind, check the boxes, are automatically admitted.
Okay. And that actually kind of segues to my next question, because I talk with students all the time about the importance of other things that goes into a lot more holistic approach. So like extracurricular, leadership positions, volunteer work. Can you expand on that as far as what the university looks for in candidates?
Yeah. So before I answer that, it's always important for me to note at this point, and that is COVID-19 impacted every single junior's spring semester to make an impact, to serve their community, to take on leadership skills, to take on research component. All of that was stripped from every single junior in their spring semester. So we will not hold that against a student that says, well, if I look at the application and I see zero accomplishments on the junior year, that's not going to adversely affect a student.
Okay.
So what we have asked students who say, well, how do I still stand out? What do I need to do? I tell them to think outside the box. Think creatively on what you can add for clubs and activities, such as maybe the student has been a babysitter since they were 14, but they just didn't think that was important enough to put on an application. Highlight that and talk about it. Maybe their religious affiliation utilized virtual programs since April, like many of us did, and that student chose to take the initiative to help the religious affiliation implement said virtual platform. Those are still ways that a student can maximize leadership. They just have to think about it differently. So they're not going to do research at a hospital. We get it. They didn't get a chance to do that robotics engineering competition. We get it. They didn't get to serve at a, they didn't get to do any projects abroad because of COVID-19. We get it. So we don't want students to stress over that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. Because I know, especially with it's like you said, it's kind of crazy this year that they couldn't take those opportunities, and so that's actually good information for me to know, so that way I can advise my students moving forward with the application process for this year. And I know you touched upon this already, but as far as like the admissions process for the university, you talked about the application. What other things go into the admissions process?
So we talked about test scores, GPA, the rigor in the classroom, leadership outside of the classroom, clubs and activities, diversity. Maybe the student is first generation. Maybe the student is excelling in a talent like music. Maybe they're in ROTC. So all of those things go into play within our holistic review. And I would encourage any family who maybe they've never heard the word holistic review before to visit our website. And literally all of the criteria, I just mentioned maybe 6 of those criteria. I think there's about 9 listed on our website. I would encourage families to go see all 9 criteria. And again, just don't look at it as a checkbox.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And so we also mentioned application essays. What suggestions would you give to a student for their application essay to help them stand out?
Sure. We only accept the common application. And on that application, there are 8 essay prompts that a student can choose from.
Okay.
Sometimes students struggle, and I'm sure they talk to you, Cameron, they say,
Yes.
which one should I choose? You know, what should I write about? And I always tell the student, don't think of the essay as a quiz or a paper that you're submitting to be graded, because I'm not going to grade it. I'm not going to mark it up with a red ink and give it back to you with grade. So when I say that, there's a question that says, maybe you want to use a previous writing sample that you've already submitted that you feel very good about. That's okay. We're not going to say, oh, this student gave up. They used their poli-sci paper because they got an A+ on it instead of doing a brand new essay. That's okay. That's not going to be looked bad upon. Now, I say that, And I also want the students to be authentic. Don't write an essay that they think we want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the application with the information on the transcript, the letters of recommendation starts to paint this picture of who the student is, and then we get this letter of recommendation, it looks like somebody who just finished graduating at MIT with all this superb, massive jargon that we're thinking something doesn't add up, and you can tell they're trying to write the essay to what we think they want to hear. Be authentic, make it sound like you, because the essay and the letters of recommendation are the only two way, and your clubs and activities are the only three ways you get to brag about yourself and be yourself, because the transcript, you can't fluff that anymore. Those are grades that have already occurred.
Right.
But with the clubs and organizations, the essay, and the letters of recommendation, that's the best way that we kind of get to figure out who you are as a person.
Okay, awesome. I really appreciate that's great information, because I know that, again, like you said, students, I see it. They stress out about what should I say. What I don't want to make this sound like I'm not I'm not smart enough to get into the school. And so I think being authentic is some great advice. And so okay, and just so you know, I'm you know and I know, but not everyone knows these terms: early action, regular decision, early decision. So my question to you is, who should apply for those? And first, let's go ahead and define what those terms are exactly.
Sure. Let's start with early decision, because I think that one sometimes those words scare people. What does that mean? Early decision is not something to be afraid of. Let me say that first. Early decision, there are institutions across the country that say, if you apply for early decision and you are admitted, you are bound to enroll at that institution. So you have to attend that institution. Also, once you find out that you have been admitted to an early decision institution, you are also required to notify all the other institutions that you were either waiting to receive a decision from, or maybe you did receive an admissions decision from. You need to inform those institutions that you are not be enrolling there because you chose an early decision institution. So
Okay.
that's early decision, or ED as people like to say. Early action is different. Early action is where an institution will still have a deadline that you have to submit and complete the application. However, if you are admitted to an early action institution, you are not bound or required to attend that institution. So you are given the liberty or the flexibility to say, okay, I'm admitted to Ohio State, I'm admitted to Maryland, and I'm admitted to Texas and these are just examples for early action. However, I don't have to go to any of those three, nor do I have to tell the other two where I'm going or where I've been to.
Okay.
And then regular decision are institutions that have a deadline that's typically later in the year. So let me go back a little bit. The early decision deadline dates are typically October, November. Early action dates are usually November and December. And then regular decision dates typically go into that February, March, and April. And if it's an institution that has rolling admissions, they may enroll students well into the summer. So there's a different types of institutions with different deadlines out there.
Okay.
Ohio State uses early action only early action, and the deadline to apply for early action at Ohio State is November 15th.
Okay. All right. And who should apply for early action?
For Ohio State, it's important to note that it's not about who should apply, it's more what you want to be considered for. So if you want to be considered for merit scholarships, if you want to be considered for our prestigious honors and scholars program, if you want to be considered for our prestigious moral scholarship program, at least for the merit scholarships, you have to apply by November 15th. For honors and scholars and MSP, it's highly recommended that you apply by November 15th. So, and all three of those, so merit scholarships, honors and scholars, and MSP, moral scholarship program, MSP and honors and scholars, they also have scholarships embedded within them. So if a student wants to be considered for all of our scholarship dollars, two things have to happen. One, on the application, they have to select that they're interested in MSP or honors and scholars. And two, they must apply, or highly recommended that they apply by November 15th. So I always tell my students, and Cameron, I don't even know if I had a chance to tell you this, I serve as the admissions representative for your school district.
Okay.
So I work very closely with the college counselor, Tom Woodford, all the time.
Yes.
And students always want to know the benefits of early action I just mentioned. If you want to be considered for the most scholarship dollars, it is highly recommended that you apply by November 15th.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That's some great information for me as well. Because again, I'm new to Central Ohio, so I'm from Ohio. I'm new to Central Ohio. This is still great information for me to know, and as well as anyone else that even if you're out of the state of Ohio, that you can if you're considering Ohio State. So now we talked about the application process and all that. Let's talk about campus and what life is like for students on campus. So, like, what's the size of Ohio State? Like, where is it located in the city of Columbus? What types of organizations, sports, and things like that can students expect to be able to take advantage of?
Yeah, so we have, there are just under 60,000 students enrolled at Ohio State University, and that includes our graduate and professional programs. For our undergraduate, there's just over 45,000 students in the undergraduate program. In terms of location of where Ohio State actually is, it is literally just a few minutes north of downtown Columbus, Ohio. So in terms of transportation, we're less than 15, 20 minutes away from the John Glenn International Airport. So students have access to freely get about the city. And for not sometimes even Central Ohio students don't know this, but your student ID, or Buck ID as we call it, you can use that to ride the free public transportation service, bus service, COTA, from campus directly into downtown Columbus for free.
I did not know that.
Yes. There are just over 1,300 student clubs and organizations on campus. And every year, twice a year, all 1,300 or so clubs and organizations, they meet on the Oval. And if you're an Ohio State fan, you are very much familiar with our historic Oval, that all of the 13 clubs and organizations, they meet. They're out there, and they're just out there trying to get to know new students to say, hey, are you interested in the theme park engineering club? Are you interested in the salsa dancing club? Are you interested in the bread making club? I mean, they're all out there. And students have the access to not just get involved with them during it's called the week of welcome, is when they're out there. They can reach out to those clubs and organizations at any time to just learn more and how to get involved and get connected, because that's what makes our students come back for their sophomore, their junior year, and their senior to even graduate, is getting connected in that freshman year.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that students have that opportunity, especially the amount of clubs. Sounds like there's literally a club for everyone on campus, whatever interest you have. So, okay. And now I'm a student, right? And I'm not sure. I want to go to Ohio State. I've always wanted to go to Ohio State. That's my dream school. But I'm unsure what I want to do as far as my major. What if I come in to campus and declare undecided?
Yes. So on the application for Ohio State, you get to select you can only select one major. You can't select a double major on the common application. Two, we actually don't have the exact words undecided as an option on the application. We have our university exploration major to select on the application.
Okay.
Basically what that is, Cameron, it's pretty much an undecided, and there are 6 tracks within university exploration that allows a student to align with maybe an area of study that they want to do. For example, for students that aren't admitted into engineering, they are typically admitted into our science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM university exploration program, because majority of those courses will still align within the College of Engineering to make sure that the student is still on track to graduate on time. So for a student who doesn't know what they want to major in, selecting university exploration does not adversely impact their application being reviewed, because we actually review the applications major blind, which means when the applications come for review, we don't use, and that's why I strategically didn't say it in the holistic review, we don't say what is their major, okay, then we need to give them different consideration on the application review. Not even used.
Okay. Well, that's great, because know that what if, you came in undecided and then you take a bunch of classes that doesn't even apply to your major, and it's a major that is has more course load, so that's great. Now, what about opportunities for study abroad? What kind of opportunities are there at Ohio State if I say I want to check out, I don't know, I want to go to Spain, or I want to go to Iceland, or wherever? What study abroad opportunities are there at your campus?
Yeah, there are, Cameron, just over 100 study abroad opportunities spanning 50 countries on all 7 continents.
Oh,
So we
wow.
tell students that the world is literally your campus. It is your campus. If you want to study in Spain, absolutely. If you want to study in the Galapagos Islands, absolutely. If you want to study in London, absolutely. If you want to study in Antarctica at Ohio State University's Bird, Polar, and Climate Research Center, you can do that as well.
Wow. That's pretty impressive that you offer all 7 continents. Wow. Okay. Well, I guess if a student is really considering Ohio State and they want to check out Antarctica, why not? How about internships? What does the university do in supporting students and helping them find internships? And then, is there a career center that students can utilize? And
Good
if there
question.
is, what is done at the career center?
Good question. So each college or school has their own embedded career center. So if they don't want to, for whatever reason, use the career center within their own college or school, there's also another career center that's not within the college or school that they could utilize. And the reason why they are embedded within each college or school is sometimes students believe that, well, if I'm going to be a business major, I only need to talk to the individuals that are experienced in my major. So there's a career center that was created just for business students. Speaking of business, our nationally ranked Fisher College of Business, more than 96% of those students will have at least one internship before they graduate. And it's
Wow.
important to note that internships aren't required to graduate. However, our students understand the importance of gaining that hands-on, invaluable experience while being a student. Is just, like I said, it's invaluable to know that you have a job. If you're an engineer and you get your first engineering internship and you say, this is not the kind of work that I want to be doing, at least you found that out in college and not graduating with an engineering degree and get into your field and say, I've made a mistake. How do I get out of this? You get to do that and make those decisions in college. And that's important.
Right. And especially, and I want to add this too, especially with Columbus, and Columbus being such a booming economy and the endless opportunities that students can utilize here in the city of Columbus. I think that's very valuable. Now I'm a student, and maybe I might be struggling. What kind of tutoring service are available for students on campus?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I know many of our first year students, they think about it and yet they don't want to talk about it with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
There are tutoring services and support services, and I want this audience and any audience to remember this: colleges weren't created for you to fail. They just weren't. Colleges were created to help you succeed in life. So if a student truly fails out of college, that student did not take many initiatives to attempt to be successful. It's one thing to perform poorly and seek help at the same time. Maybe there's something else going on in your life. But for the student who says, I'm not doing well in school and they're afraid to ask for help, that the accountability is on that student.
Mm-hmm.
So at Ohio State, we have a wonderful Yonkin Student Success Center where students have access to essay writing, tutoring, but they also have, gosh, I lost my train of thought, mock interview practice within the Yonkin Success Center. Now,
Okay.
these mock interviews are also happening within the Career Center within their embedded college or school, and they can get that within the Yonkin Student Success Center as well.
Okay, wow. I'm like blown away. I might have to re-enroll at Ohio State myself with everything that you have to offer. I am also a huge Buckeyes fan. I always grew up a Buckeyes fan growing up here in Ohio myself. So, okay. Now, part of college, money is involved as well. So I'll ask a couple questions in regards to that. First question, because I know being a public university, you have in-state, out-of-state tuition and all that. How much is tuition at your university?
Yeah, so tuition for our in-state students is just around $24,000. So that's tuition and room and board. And all of our COVID-19 has impacted some of these things tremendously, but typically our freshmen and sophomores have to live on campus those first 2 years.
Okay. And then how about out-of-state tuition?
Yeah, so the out-of-state tuition is just around 45,000 in out-of-state. And the biggest reason why the tuition for out-of-state is what it is because mainly we don't receive tax dollars from out-of-state families.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And then the other money question I'll ask you is in regards to, we alluded to this before, as far as university-specific scholarships. So should students seek those out? And if so, do they need to apply for them, or are they just automatically considered with their application?
They are automatically considered for the application. So you heard me stress a little bit about this earlier. Merit-based scholarships, the Moral Scholarship Program, and Honors and Scholars all have dollar scholarships within them. So the only way you can be considered is applying by November 15th. Outside of those, unless the student is, maybe they're music, so maybe they're in the band, or maybe they are a dancer, or even an athlete, there's extra dollars that way, but those don't require an application. Those require more of a talent interview or rehearsal of some sort, audition to be eligible for those funds. So that's not coming in terms of an application. Those are different.
Okay. All right, then. And we're just flying right through this. So I only got a couple more questions for you, okay? So this is something that I'm sure that just about everyone at some point is going to feel this way. Like maybe they're feeling lonely, they're homesick. Maybe a student might need some mental health services and everything that's going on with more awareness of mental health and needs and everything. What supports are available for students on campus at Ohio State?
All freshman students will have a peer leader, and that peer leader is housed within our first year experience and orientation department. This peer leader is an upperclassman who is truly volunteering their time to give back to all first year students, regardless of if they're struggling or not. They are truly there to serve as that someone who looks like them, right? Someone who looks like they're a student, they're enrolled, they're in classes, they're doing the same things that the student who might be struggling is doing, but they get to rely on a student not coming to talk to an adult like you or I. And sometimes they think talking to an adult is just intimidating sometimes. That's one way. The other way is going back to the Yonking Student Success Center. There is also counseling services within the Yonking Student Success Center. I believe students are given a handful of their first handful of visits are free, and then
Mhm.
depending on what the services are beyond that, there may be some charges there, but they at least get a handful of visits, the first handful of visits for free.
Okay, awesome. I think that's great, especially a student that is just trying to find their footing on campus. They're new, and being away from home for the first time. I mean, I remember going away from uh, my hometown when I was at Gannon, and there was a few times that I was a little homesick. I mean, I got through it, but that's great to know that that resource is there at Ohio State. So now this is my last question, okay? And so we're talking about the Ohio State University, and I just want to know, just for everyone out there, what are some aspects that make the Ohio State University stand out compared to other schools, and why should a student want to come to the university?
You kind of stole my thunder on one of them. I was going to say it first, but you did it already. And that is, we are very proud to be who we are as Buckeyes. Being a Buckeye means that you have access when you graduate from Ohio State University. You're not just going to leave with a degree. You're going to leave with a world-renowned degree that's going to be recognized across the world. And you will have access to more than 500,000 living alumni who are just waiting to help their fellow Buckeyes when they graduate from college. Also, the spirit and the energy of being a Buckeye is one like I've never experienced before. I'm not from Ohio. I'm not an Ohio State graduate. With me working here for just a couple of years, it makes me want to be an Ohio State alumni immediately because of the energy here. We're also in a wonderful conference within the Big Ten Conference, and there are some very strong institutions that we are comparable with and just as strong. And Ohio State's a Research One institution where as a top 20 institution in the country and the #1 public institution in Ohio, we take pride in being the #1 public institution in the country or in the state of Ohio.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to do this interview. I'm sure that there's going to be people watching this that are like, maybe I might have to check out Ohio State, consider Ohio State. But thank you. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to do this with me. And it was a great chat, Thomas. Thank you.
Absolutely, Cameron. Thanks for having me. I think you have a wonderful start opportunity here in front of you. So good luck. And again, thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem. All right.